Hey everyone, happy Sunday to you. I hope all is well. Great job on your DBs summarizing your papers. I noted on a few of you to be sure to stay within the word counts, and I've expressed in another video why that matters and why that's important. So yeah, you can revisit that video. Just stay within, do a good job staying within the word counts. But overall, man, great job, everybody. I really am impressed by your insights into the 12-step program. So that said, let's kind of wrap this 12-step up temporarily here with just kind of reviewing a few things. One, for whatever type of meeting you attended, ACA, NA, Al-Anon, AA, CMA, CA, I think I had all of those, and I was impressed by all of those. And my hope is you and I know we're busy. We all have families and lives and school and work and all the things, and things just keep happening. And I get that that's our lives, right? All of us experience those things, but I'm going to encourage you to, at some point, whatever meeting you attended, attend the others. I think you see from what I gathered from your papers, and my hope is you really were able to see the value of attending in person or online, or just experiencing that, because experiencing it is the greatest teacher. I will always say your author is the expert. I'm here to kind of give you real world perspective from what the topic is. But again, your author is the expert. Keep that in mind. But that's why I deviate a little bit from the actual text, because I want to give you some insight into real world stuff, right? But that said, my hope is if you attended an AA meeting, that you'll attend an NA, a CA. It's important we're familiar. In fact, it's more than important. It's our ethical responsibility that we know available resources and can educate our clients on what they are, right? I don't get to influence a client's decision on whether they go to NA, AA, CA, regardless of my opinion, right? Or SMART or Celebrate or Refuge. But it is my responsibility to be able to educate them on the values of the program, the potential benefits, the potential setbacks according to what they may see, their philosophies, their ideals, the logistics. What does a meeting look like here? So that part is very important, because I can educate a client on when they ask, well, what do you think of AA, for example? I'm not going to tell them, well, I think it's a wonderful program. It really helped me. It saved my life, all of which are true. I don't want to influence that client's decision. I'm going to always put it back on them. Well, what do you think the potential benefits may be, or the potential setbacks may be of a program like this? What I can tell you is this program believes in this philosophy. The logistics are, the meetings are similar to this, and this is what it looks like. Then we have a further discussion. That's our clinical perspective. That's how we come from a place of clinical knowledge, if that makes sense to you. That said, so to wrap this up, AA or NA or CA, the 12-step model believes in the medical model, the disease concept, that we have a disease, and by we, people with a substance use disorder, have a disease that hijacks our brain, classifying it as a brain disease. I will take that to my grave. That's my personal opinion. That's my belief. That's my lived experience, right? There's lots of professional research that supports that, but just like anything, you can find professional resource, easy for me to say, professional, what am I trying to say here? Professional research is the word I'm looking for, thank you, to support most things, right? So, but I will tell you, I believe, as someone with a substance use disorder, that we have these internal switches. Now, this is just my personal belief here, and this is why I will take the disease concept to my grave, believing in it, because I feel like we have these internal switches. And regardless of how often or how little I drink, I'm just saying drinking, it could be drug use as well. And for me, it might have been both, FYI. If I drink once a day, or if I drink once a month, what happens to me when I drink is how I determine this. So I feel, again, for the third time, we have these internal switches. People without a substance use disorder seem to be able to flick that switch at a moment's notice and say, whoa, I'm getting tipsy, I'm catching a buzz, let me slow down. And they do. for the most part. Occasionally they, whatever, but for the most part, body of work they do. Me, I have a double on switch. And when I should be tapering down, I ramp it up. And as sure as I'm doing this video and talking to you right here, that is out of my control. When I'm under the influence of anything, whether it's one drink, two drinks, one hit, two hit, one pill, three pills, that is out of my control. Therefore, that tells me this disease concept for me in my life is 100% accurate. It hijacks my brain and it is seemingly out of my control. I will take that to the grave. That said, that doesn't mean my clients believe that or buy into that. So I will educate. My experience is irrelevant there. I don't typically give that. This is just for our interaction here. We'll get into that more when we talk about SMART and compare the two programs and the thinking error model. But let's just, AA, NA, CA, all the 12-step models believe in the disease concept, right? The medical model, it's called. And they believe you find this higher power. You come in, you admit this powerlessness and this unmanageability, which is very... The unmanageability part seems to be pretty easy for many people. Hey, I'm here. My life's clearly out of control in some way. The powerlessness, a lot of people struggle with. But I would encourage you, this is where we can kind of educate and reframe using cognitive. This is where we come from as clinicians. And we can use a CBT model, cognitive behavioral therapy, which says if I reframe things, if I change my thinking, it changes my behavior, changing the way I feel. Well, when we admit this powerlessness, and I work with many clients like this from this framework, isn't that then empowering us to make a different choice and to make a positive change? So yes, I'm technically admitting powerlessness, but that then empowers me to make a change. So, framework, language matters, framework matters. That's cognitive behavioral therapy in a nutshell, and its most basic form right there, right? That's what we do as clinicians. I'm not here to tell them, no, you're powerlessness or you're not. I'm not here to say that. I don't know what their situation is. Every person's very different. That's how we use our clinical skill, right? So, that said, they also believe you come to these meetings, the fellowship and the community are a key piece to these programs. I loved it. I think that community, is it perfect? Absolutely not. Nothing is. Nothing's going to be perfect for anyone. Very, very rarely is that there's always something, right? But is that a solid piece to their program? Absolutely. And then, so then they believe you work with others. That's kind of, you do this internal work. You take ownership of your behaviors. You make amends to people. That's their process, right? It's a wonderful process. I will tell you, I use a 12-step model integratively with every client I work with one way or another. Now, if it's someone with a substance use disorder, that's an easy conversation. But what about somebody that's not? What does a 12-step program say in a nutshell? Be a good human. Take ownership of your behavior, control the things you can control, practice acceptance on the things you can't, and live in the moment and live in gratitude. That has nothing to do with drinking or drugs. And I think I've said in many of my videos, we're all in recovery from something, whether we realize it or not, is kind of my thought. And recovery stuff is just life stuff. This is where language gets really tricky. Many of us in a recovery community, we fly that recovery flag so high, but recovery is just a piece of my pie that makes up the whole anyway. Again, we want to come from a clinical perspective of, making a positive change is I don't care what you label it, being in recovery, not being in it's fine. It's being able to make to take ownership, control what I can control. It's a wonderful philosophy for many things. Right? So I'm in full support. It's not up to me to what my client chooses. I want you to hear this phrase and remember this phrase. I'll probably repeat it many times throughout our time together. It's not my job as a clinician is not to choose for my client. It's to walk with my client through their choices. Let me say that again. It's not to choose for my client. It's to walk with my client through their choices. And me being educated on the available resources, philosophies, ideals, logistics, that's how I help educate them so that they can make a choice that best fits their needs, right? So, hey, it's a great job, great insight. Many of you, this was your first experience. I'm really grateful you were able to have it here and discuss it here. The idea with the papers was you let me know about your experience in that format, and I commented on every one line by line. I think most of you recognize that. I definitely read them and comment on them. And then the idea is the DB, as I stated from the beginning, you share that with your peers. I won't comment on those. I'll just do a video. So that said, moving on to this week, the next 2 weeks, you're going to be talking about and reading and learning about motivational interviewing. This is probably the best stretch of class in my opinion, with the wrapping up the 12-step experience, going right into a motivational interviewing experience, and then into smart recoveries experience. Beautifully planned, right? I think every semester, most students really love the MI. And I'll tell you, to this very day, at 16 years in, 15 years in, it is the basis. That and cognitive behavioral therapy, those two theories, theoretical orientations, are the basis of what I do in counseling. Motivational interviewing says it really changed the game, apparently, way back when. I guess in the 80s and 90s, it was like the Wild West in counseling, right? People saying, you have to do this, you need to do it, right? Well, we know that's not the best way to go. We know too much research and advancement there has shown us that more of a positive, unconditional positive regards, what I'm trying to say there, strength-based approach is better, right, for most individuals. That doesn't mean that, being told I'm an alcoholic or addict isn't of value for some people too, right? I'm not discounting that in any way. And I always get an email from a student that says, hey, I needed to be told I was an alcoholic or an addict. Great. That's you. That's not your client. And there's great value in that as well. However, from a clinical perspective, we need to come from a positive, strength-based approach. I will tell you, my reputation in this industry is I'm very direct. I'm very direct with love, but I'm very direct. So I'm not skirting around the issues. I assure you of that. There's just a way to approach it, in my opinion, right? So MI is a wonderful way to do that. MI says we roll with the changes. We roll with the resistance. I mean, like, if I'm not here to argue with anybody, that's not my role as a counselor. I don't want a counselor that's going to argue with me. Do I want one that's going to voice their opinion or their expertise? Absolutely, right? But motivational interviewing, the one thing I said is the on one hand question, right? On one hand, you're saying you want to make positive changes. You want to stop drinking. You want your spouse to re-engage in the relationship. On the other hand, you're drinking 4 nights a week. Those two things aren't congruent. Help me make those make sense. How is A going to lead you to B? Or how is A and B going to lead you to your goal of, I want these things to improve? They're inconsistent. They're incongruent, right? So we let the truth do the confronting in motivational interviewing. Well, I hear you saying on one hand, you really want these changes to take place. On the other, this is what the behavior shows. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just presenting what you're presenting back to me. That back to you as a client. Does that make sense? I hope. Motivational interviewing is wonderful. So you'll read this chapter 3 on motivational interviewing, and you'll do quiz 2. Week 7, you'll have a article in here to read from Positive Psychology on motivate, and do DB4 on motivational interviewing. It's a phenomenal article. It's not very long. Please read that. You'll be better for it. And then we're on to week 8, which is already the halfway point. We're creeping up on that quick. And that's smart recovery. Smart recovery I'll get into a little bit later, but it's the antithesis of 12-step work. It's the complete opposite. So it's maybe next week or the week after, I'll certainly get into more of a dialogue about smart recovery. About halfway, for those that need it, I'll release extra credit assignments. But you guys are rocking and rolling, most of you. Absolutely. If I can be of any help at any point in time, please reach out to me. It's never too early to be paying attention to your point totals. As you know, we're on a point total in this point system in this class. You need a minimum of 760 to pass. The most you can have right now is 300. So just be paying attention to those things, because one assignment leads to two, leads to three. Next thing you know, you're pretty far gone on the point. So just start paying attention to that. Again, most of you are killing it. Anyways, I'm always happy to do a Zoom meeting with you to discuss work, to discuss this course in any way, to discuss just this field of work or study anytime. So guys, have a great week, and we'll talk soon.